Welcome. We're back. I'm Kirsten,
I'm Sam.
and we're here to chew the metaphysical fat. Yay!
Yes,
We have
we
our
are.
our lovely friend Dyanna back with us today. And we're going to discuss the Divine Feminine to continue the discussion we began all those many weeks ago. So, without further ado, she's gone. So, anyway, Sam, let's.
You just like to give a bit of drama before we start. That's what it is. We just setting the tone. It'll be absolutely fine. Promise. She'll be back in a minute.
That's right.
But it's all
That's
part
right.
of the story.
So, that's right. Long pause. Take some deep breaths.
We're hoping to discuss the Divine Feminine today with our lovely Divine Feminine Dyanna, and obviously my fellow sister Divine Feminine Kirsten. And we kind of didn't cover everything we wanted to speak about last time, did we? Oh, she's back.
There she is.
I switched to my phone.
All
so
right.
now I'm streaming through my phone because it was cutting out a lot. That one was huge. That one booted me right out of the studio.
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
it gave us a nice dramatic pause. It was real like live on TV moment. But it was fun. Yeah, we're excited to have you back because in the last time we really dug into some of the aspects of like the Divine Feminine, some of the like social inversions that were going on and the ways that it was expressed.
We need to invent something new. Like that's what it comes down to. We need to invent it. So like we could just unpack the way it's wrong, the way it's right. But then that's just to kind of tease out what it should be. Because I don't think we know for men or women, like how it really should be. Because all of society has to change. Like I just watched Nick's thing right before this. And like all of society has to change. But I think the mother is pure and you can't change the mother. It doesn't matter any much about society. But yeah, we could discuss that during. And just that archetype, like we were talking, I mean, the whole archetype, like not even just for children. I mean, like giving nurturing to the men, giving nurturing to the other women, giving nurturing to other people's children, because like there's just like a big cry for nurturing, put it that way. And like that's going to more naturally come from the feminine. So I think that's like our place. But how it's going to end up looking in like even 10 to 20 years is who even knows.
Yeah, but do you not think that? Okay.
I was just going to say, no, I'm sorry, Sam. No, I was just going to say, I agree. I also think that one of the aspects of the Divine Feminine is offering that spiritual guidance. I really think that it's time that we start looking to the feminine as more of a guiding force in society. I know we have been, but only in the sense of being behind the scenes, traditionally to this point, being behind the scenes and telling men, what they need to do. And I think we need to come more to the forefront. And I don't think feminism is a good vehicle for that, because it's basically asking us to become like men. And that, again, negates the power of the Divine Feminine. So I'm sorry, Sam, go ahead. What were you going to say?
It's completely run away to the other station, but I'm sure it'll come back eventually.
I know what that's like.
I just wanted to add, obviously leading from what you were saying, Kirsten, about just the kind of ways that we embody it, really. So just going back to that mother archetype, that's the predominant one, isn't it, that we think of in society. It's that mother figure that seems like the most important role. And I feel like that's even been inverted. And like you were saying, it isn't just specifically applied to children. It is the nurturing like thread that runs through the mother, but also there's a lot more to it. There's like the protective fierce side, which brings in like lots of different layers to it. And I really feel like that's the one that's been the most kind of inverted, if I'm honest. I mean, I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what's funny? If any of my audience wanted to know if I'm the same off camera as on, I didn't realize when I came back in, we were live. So that whole conversation we were like having, like I didn't even notice until I was watching Sam talk, because that's where the recording thing is. And I'm like, oh, okay, all right. Alrighty then. But that's so funny. So talk about like the authentic raw. But I agree.
Yeah.
a little bit behind the scenes, on the scenes footage. But I agree, and it's just, and that's why I like that word, the mother, and the feeling of the mother, because like I'm talking of that aspect of the goddess. And this comes into play when we do guidance, because like a lot of the time, like there's this history of women nag, men slap, right? Like it's just that ongoing, it's not so much ongoing, but like you notice it still exists, like my, passive aggressive comments, or just, saying no to things they would have said yes to because I just nagged about that. Like, and everybody's got their own like version. Oh, you got to be nice, and like women need their own things too, but like women have good advice. Men can too, especially when it comes to being firm. Like I was telling you guys earlier, like Andrew's home because he has like a rash, but I love keeping my kids home, and I keep them home a lot, but it's just the first week of school and they're already off Monday because of holiday. And I wanted to keep the other two home too, right? And I telling my husband about it on the phone, and he's like, no, the others have to go to school. It's just the first week, blah, blah. But I listened. I was like, you know what? That's right. Because that was like very logical, very, that's where the men will have very good advice. It's like the what to do, the like, again, like Nick and Steven's conversation that I just watched today, like that was so like nominate Nick for president. You know what I mean?
I agree.
Yeah.
That was a perfect conversation. It was fascinating too. And Nick has so many good ideas. And you're absolutely right. I mean, we really need both. I mean, within ourselves and within our relationships, we really need both energies. So go ahead, Dyanna. Where were you going with that?
No, I agree. Yeah. And likewise, because like what Patrick was saying this morning, that was like him being the father, and yes, to our children, but also to me. And that just like we need, especially nowadays, because a lot of us I don't know what it would even look like if we had like perfect parents, if we would need that. But my husband did have pretty good parents. His relationship with his mother was like, she was very like, expected him to do great, but she was still very nice about it. He just, I don't know, she didn't feel like she appreciated him enough. So their relationship's still pretty high class. Where there's other people that had just like mothers that just did not support them at all, were not there for them emotionally. Like there's this lack because the feminine was suppressed for so long. And then finally she's allowed to be a person again. Like she went from having 12 children and not being able to be great at them, or if she didn't have children, like there was a hold, like she'd have to go be a maid or something and work in somebody else's house and take care of someone else's children, or she'd have to, like, it's just this constant putting women in places where it's like, I don't want to say they didn't belong there at any of those points, because it's never just been a perfect fit for us. Where men, not all men, but men have had places where they belonged for hundreds of years. Like, not that things were perfect, but they could feel like an actual existing human being.
What
Like
do you mean by that, then, Dyanna? What do you mean by places they could go? Like, have you got some descriptions of that? Just to elaborate on it.
Do you mean about the men or the women?
Men, really, because you said that they got stuff, places they could go in context. Yeah,
absolutely. So yeah, there's a certain sect of men, and like people like to get mad at like the white man, but that's because for a while they had created themselves a world where they were happy. They had wives that took care of them. They had jobs that paid. Like, think about the Mad Men era, right? Like, imagine Mad Men. And I'm not saying that's of God, but they were still found places of happiness. That ego could be fulfilled. They found places where they belonged, and they were given purpose and meaning and appreciation for so long. The feminine, for one thing, like, villainized in multiple religions, but especially the Bible. And wow, you know what I mean? If you want to know like how dark it got, like the Carrie, especially if you read the book, it talks about all these books that are real about like the curse of Eve, and how like women were just actually seen as the devil, and they were punished just for being women. When they were all their time, they were punished, like so far away from the natural roots of just being a human and tribal, when you're expected to just be like, not be who you are. So like this woman stirred, and it didn't matter. And then the hippie movement came, and women were forced to be men, like you were saying, Kirsten. They've just never found their place of like, this is it. This is perfect. I am happy. But you could name tons and tons of men that had that.
Do you think the same?
Oh yeah. Not all men. And there's so many subjugated men, especially from the lifestyles like I know a lot of us came from. So those men weren't happy. But my husband's dad was extremely happy. So happy. The happiest life ever. He was wonderful. His mom loved him dearly. His wife loved him dearly. He was extremely taken care of. He was a wonderful person. And I feel like in that boomer generation, especially, you see like a lot of men that had a really happy life. And it's almost like the feminine, like on the subconscious level, was just like, okay, it's my turn.
I mean, if you look at it though in a different context, if you look at it as though the men were still putting boxes and the women were putting boxes, so it was almost like, yeah, they enjoyed it sometimes, but so did the women. You know, women like to be mothers. The majority of women do. They like to run a house. I mean, the thing is, I suppose, if you want to do more and you were restricted in that way. But what we're really talking about is a lack of freedom between both sexes, really. The difference was, I know what you're saying, men have got a slightly more, you know, they've got a higher moral, social standing, basically. So they've got a bit more wiggle room, with the women were more forced to kind of take up the box or the shape that society expected them to kind of be in, you know. And I think that's that. So the root of it really is the societal pressures, you know, do you not find? And that's the whole point of this, looking at how society is shaping our view of what men and women's roles should be. And it's got to be a mass consensus to obviously have power and sway, and to move that across the general population, because it's the main way that women and men are treated by opposing sexes, really. It's a majority, you know. I tend to find a lot of themes that are majority themes that people kind of gravitate towards, you know. So I think it's breaking those huge themes up and giving people more individuation, maybe. So I completely get what you mean by the boxes, but I do feel like it's dual purpose. Men and women are kind of subjugated.
Except like the woman box had like spikes.
Yeah.
Like just imagine.
No,
Go ahead, Kirsten.
Now, I was going to say, I agree. I mean, feminism wouldn't have taken such a hold if there wasn't really a lot of anger and rage there about being subjugated so severely. And, you know, but instead of, well, I mean, we know, instead of celebrating the feminine and bringing the feminine to fore, it really basically said, well, if you want to have a great life, then fit into the male world and do the male thing, and you're good. Get a job. You're free now. You got a job. Yay! It's like,
I think they give somebody to push against. That's what they do. They give you you a common enemy. So it's not even like men, women. It's a class system, basically. And the higher classes have obviously got a broader perspective in what men and women are. I'm not saying that it was perfect, but you tend to find the more educated that somebody was, the more liberal and open-minded the kind of way we'll say regarding those kind of like issues back then. So it was more like a class system for me. Like if you were poor, you were more likely to, like, as a woman, really be put down and like expected to fill these certain roles.
And most people were poor, though, especially back then. Like if you think about like just what's in our DNA, right? Because a lot of us get like middle classy, right? Like that's what they're trying to stop us with inflation. But then, so I agree, once you start to educate yourself out of this system, that's true. But like as a part of our DNA, as a part of like our heritage of what we come from, and just the worlds and the different countries we even all came from, except maybe you, Sam, because England's been around forever. You've probably been there forever. Who knows? But Kirsten and I would be part of like an immigration heritage that would, especially because Canada's even newer. Like I'm from a bunch of different countries that we know, like there's a reason they were flooding here because it was not good. But and then, so I don't want to sound like a victim mentality for the female, but I do think they absolutely had it worse. I agree that the powers that be that were much higher probably knew what they were doing, especially entity wise. The entities certainly knew what they were doing, egregores, things like that. They of course knew what they were doing, spinning us against each other. But there is a lot of awareness that just was not met. When you hit another person right in the face with your fist, and that person is half your size, now, you know what I mean? Like there is a large difference between, you know what I mean? Like the storylines. And I'm not saying men had it perfect, but women have it Like, you know what I mean? Like, I remember being bitter about that, like in college. And they had like, I had this group of friends and I didn't see color. That wasn't a thing. I thought that was a thing for everyone, but apparently they see color. And I was in this group and it was called the multicultural group. But they're like, oh, but you can be the woman. You can be the woman. And I was like, wow. Like, it was just, and they didn't even say anything. And I was like, but because I'd already was like a man hater. I already was like, why? Because I watched my mom also work full time and have to do all the cooking and the cleaning and taking care of the kids and all the running around for the kids and all the things required for a family. She did and worked, and now she's dead. So it's like, and then meanwhile, my dad didn't like his life, and I love them both, but he didn't like his life either. Poor him. Things were hard. Government brings you down, and he never hit or anything, but he was still very bossy. He'd yell about the house being messy. He'd like, why isn't this done? And like, she would get in trouble. He never got in trouble, but she would get in trouble all the time, like a child, even though she was not. She was a very hardworking, an amazing person. But like this, and even my own husband, I've gotten in trouble for too, not to the same layer, but there's like, what? Like,
Well, yeah. And I agree. And, I had a husband who punched me in the face, and this was, back in the 1990s. And when I called the police, they did arrest him because there was physical evidence, but they lectured me about how I shouldn't make him mad because I knew he had a bad temper. And at the time, I was so degraded that I was just like, oh, I know. But, I didn't really actually do anything to make him mad. He was drunk and he was mad just because he was mad. But that even, 30 years ago was the lot of women as if they were in an abusive marriage. And I mean, at least there were laws that by that time that would say, you can't do that. You'll go to jail if you do that. But before that, even there weren't laws against that. It's like, it's your wife. You can hit her if you want to. You can, and still, that mentality has carried through, as you were saying, Dyanna, with, you get in trouble if you don't do this or you don't do that. And that's just, why am I always the child here? That's grown woman working 40 hours a week, doing the cooking, taking care of the kids. And, it's also interesting. I was thinking about my own mother, who was just on the cusp of, she was a boomer, and she was just on the cusp of the feminine revolution. And the first 5 years of my life, she did stay home with me, and it was awesome. That was like the best part of my childhood, because she was there. We would do things like she would get a stool and she'd set it next to the counter, and I'd sit on the stool and help her cook, and I'd help her bake, and she'd talk to me about what she was doing, and she taught me to cook, and she taught me all these things, and she was really wired for that. That was where she was really happy. But then my parents were divorced. Feminism came along. Of course, the economy got worse, and women had to go to work, but quite deliberately, women had to go to work. And so she went to work, and my life changed dreadfully after she went to work. I had babysitters that were not the greatest people to be around. I had, and then I had to come home, by the time I was about 10 years old, I just had to come home and unlock the door and be by myself. And that whole thing, really, you were talking about what would it be like if we had perfect parents and perfect families. My mom was a really great mom, and she was also, really good at doing everything she did. But, she wasn't able to really give her whole self to that because of the situation we were living in. So, yeah.
Yes. There's a lot of stigma around it as well, isn't there now? I think that's the big thing for me. I think if women want to stay at home with their children, it shouldn't be stigmatized. I think
I agree.
I think that's the real thing. It's like people should actually have the choice, and it should be respected, because when you're at home with your kids, I was at home till my children, my eldest was 5 and my youngest was 3, or maybe just a bit before that actually. But I'd given them a good chunk, before I went back to work. And I was lucky that I could do that. because a lot of people can't, you know. And it does, a lot of it is financial, but I do think there's a stigma as well, because I remember talking to people going, oh, what do you do? And I'm like, oh, you know, I'm a mum. And they were like, oh, is that all you are? And it's like, well, no, that isn't all I am. And but right now I am, yeah. And do you know what? And then, like, the thing is with the men and the women, the men never seem to really understand what women are doing until they're left at home unsupervised with the child for an extended period of time, and then they go freaking nuts. They're like, ah! You know. And
That's so right.
but up until
Yeah.
that point, you know, they're coming home from work going, what have you done all day? Where's my dinner? You know,
Yeah.
have you
Been
run
hanging
me a
out and
bath?
watching soap operas all
Yeah.
day. With no,
You know, what are you
no,
doing?
exactly. And, you know, it is stigmatized. And actually, when you're a stay-at-home mom, and I'm sure Dyanna can speak to this more than I can, she actually is now, but it's like, you don't have a break. And I remember this soap, my grandma used to have this soap dish in the kitchen, and it said, a father works from sun to sun, but a mother's work is never done.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the absolute fucking truth. And at the time when I was a kid, I really resented that soap dish. I was like, well, that's a bunch of crap, you know. But it's absolutely true. When you're a stay-at-home mom and you're taking care of the house, even if you're just taking care of the house and not taking care of the kids, that's a full-time job. And life is so much more uncomfortable when there's no one to clean the house and take care of the kids for everyone.
Yeah, exactly. And I had all of that, literally, from what both you guys said. Like, my mom, when I was a baby, and I vaguely remember my early babysitter. So I was right away actually put in daycare when I was born. So I have that baby trauma. But then once my sister came along, the third one, and I'm 4 years older than her. So by 4, she was a stay-at-home mom, because daycare was going to be more than she made. So she's like, I'll just be a stay-at-home mom. And because she was pressured to go back to work, she wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. But my grandma, my dad's dad, which is ironic because my own mother-in-law tried to do the same to me, pushed her to go back to work, but I didn't let my mother-in-law do it. She meant it like, yeah, but then you get this narrative, when are you going back to work? When are you going back to work? For the longest time, and I told her every time, I'm not. So that was like, and she's not an ignorant woman. She was a very fancy woman. But I'd be like, I am not. But she was a very career woman. She did very well for herself. And it just like could not compute with her, and like lots of other people, but she was the one that was like the most. And then, but she actually did finally come around. Like, it finally just one day I said it a little bit firmer, like a little bit, not annoyed, but just firm. Because usually I'm old people pleaser. I would say it all, ha 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 ha. But it sounds like I'm not going back ever. Right. Exactly. And then it did settle down, and people actually have settled down. So I did actually create a wave of normalizing this, because at this point in my life, people actually look at me now and go like, wow, that's actually like a good idea. Like, and they're, especially with everything happening in society, because this was pre-COVID, before, when I was getting nagged. So now, like, as people are starting to wake up, they're like, and values are starting to come back online, and the severe anxiety, trauma, and horrible, oh God, I hate these things. Like this, I don't like to say the word, but the suicide rate, cancel and nullify, of children is astonishing, and starting now at like 8 years old. So it's like, what? That used to only be the odd teen thing. Like, everyone knew like one person as a distant story. Like, that was it. Like, I didn't even know the person my sister did, but it's like that one person, you know, but now it's like 10 kids a year in school, or not. It's like dramatizing. It depends on the school, really, and where you live. Some have an astonishingly higher rate, but where I am, it's not unheard of, put it that way. It's like you hear about it like you didn't used to hear about it. And it's like, that's not okay. Why is this happening? Because they miss their moms, and they've been they're taken away. So here it's 12 months to 18 months, but you're only getting 12 months pay. And then you go back to work and you drop them off at these daycares. And it's like, what that does to a child is awful. But anyway, so at 4 years old, my mom came back home, and that was amazing. And she stayed home until grade 7. And then when she went back to work, that's when she started drinking even more because she didn't used to have it, but she didn't like her job. Like life was stressful. She still had to cook and clean just as much. And it was just, she got really resentful to us because at this point I'm in grade 7. So she got really like expecting me to do everything. And I feel really bad, but I'm a projector with no energy. And so was she though. So like, if you could go back in time, if I could turn back time, but like, I didn't know it. My poor generator sister actually was like our Cinderella because the rest of the family was projectors. So it's just, whoa. But if she had just stayed home, she'd still be alive. And then to what you were saying, I think I addressed what you were saying too, Sam. Yeah, because just like there's so many things and just it's just as simple as that. But I do agree with like future communities and things like that. Like, where do we see this going for the future? I do think mothers need to be home, but in the same sense, that's still a lot of work too. That still stresses women out too. And women still want to matter. I think the community situation of child sharing or something like that, just occasionally, just for moments, babysitter programs, share babysitting. You hear about that used to be a thing. It's not a thing anymore. No one trusts anyone else. It's good. Everybody stopped like diddling. You know what I mean? Like for the most part, that's a freak occurrence of really gross people. But once upon a time, like in my mom's age, so many of her cousins and herself and everybody, they were all touched or something by an uncle or something or an aunt. It's just, whoa, off the chart. I was only uncles. I was trying to be fair, but it was like off the charts what happened in their family. My dad used to call them cuzzy effers, but it's like, Dad, that's not funny because like they didn't choose it. Like he was so mad. He called them inbreds and stuff like that. And it's like, no, but they were kind of messed up, I guess. But like they're not alone and they had a huge family. And I've heard about it from so many people have stories from this in family. And then because of that, though, like in the city, Hamilton, my sister still lives there. Even in kindergarten, they cannot wipe the kindergartners' bums or help them with their clothes or anything like that because clearly too many things have happened with the poor kindergartners that none of the teachers are allowed. I remember that's when I pulled Abigail out of school for homeschooling. She only went to school for like a month, but she came out one day with her pants all the way open. And I still don't put her in jeans. I'm so scarred from it. But her pants are open halfway down her bum. And I'm like, because obviously she didn't know how to do it herself. You couldn't do it for, at least here, like in the country, things are calmer. They do help the kindergartners. The whole world hasn't gone crazy, but it's like really that kind of issue is so prevalent. But this is why we don't share the work. This is what came in as the block of not being close, of not being friends. The toxicity of humanity is coming forth. And now we kind of don't trust each other, but that's kind of part of the alchemical process.
But there's a lot of trauma there as well. I can understand the mistrust in all honesty. You know, it's like trying to bridge that gap there and heal those traumas and bring back that trust. But it's got to be, I mean, I'm funny. I don't let anybody have my kids other than the grandparents, to be honest. But
same, yeah.
But I've seen it, you know, and yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really want to say anything else.
Humans used to be gross.
Humans used to be really gross.
That's for damn
sure.
sure.
But the thing was, they used to be like full families, like so you'd have more kids, wouldn't you? And like if you look at like I don't want to sound like I'm just pigeonholing this, but like Indians or Pakistans or you know any kind of family from that area of the world, and they have big families and they all live together, and it's like the elder generation are taken care of as well, but they like impart the wisdom, you know, and people lived more close together in like a family like community, so you know everybody. So it's not like you just handing it over to Joe over the street. Do you know what I mean? Here, take my baby for the day. You wouldn't do it, would you? Mm-hmm. But if you were a family, this was where they like the closest came in, and there'd be families and families, and they'd all know each other, and it'd just be huge. And that, you know, and you all pitch in together, and that's that community feel, isn't it? And that's gone now. You know, with Chappelle's photo. Yeah. We're all isolated. Apparently I saw this thing there when somebody was on about that everybody would come round and have a chat, and then the advent of the TV came, and that was it. Then you know people stopped going out and visiting quite as much. So I do think there's a lot of different things as well that kind of contribute to that. But yeah, I do feel like it's a dismantling of the family, the extended family unit, because they would really help. You know.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's interesting you mentioned the technology. Go ahead, Kirsten.
No, go ahead. Go ahead with what you were going to say.
Technology. Yeah, the technology, because it's almost like the divine wanted us to separate. And when you're online, like, we've told each other things we've never told anybody. You know what I mean? Like, because there's like this safety, like a part of it, because it's not so in your face. It's not a part of your living life. And we start, I think it helps expand our consciousness, because it's like we have two different lives, not in a real like split, like it's still authentic, but one's digital and you never see them in the flesh. Like that means something. And one is, and the kids are all doing it. Like they got Roblox friends and things like that, where they're like the teenager I talk about now that I've known forever. She talks about her Roblox friends because she's homeschooled, and like they're like her best friends. So it's funny, but this safety is what actually caused so many people to finally admit what had happened to them, is my point. So many people had finally been like, you know what, this is safe. It's not going to ruin my life if you tell someone. Like, I could just tell you, and it's like cool, and I trust you. And it's like, because you can kind of really sometimes be your better selves online. Like, I know my sister that just broke up with her man that I've mentioned, they met and fell in love online. And then when they actually came to meet in person, the toxic behavior came out and stuff like that. But that's a side subject. The point is that we feel like we can be more honest, and it is truthful and it is authentic, but then it just showed so many things were happening everywhere. Like really dark things that poor people thought was their shame. Like I had the same experience, but it was a babysitter and a girl. But I just had so much shame, and it made me such a freak and so disconnected from everybody else. And like, I think attributed heavily because of, or gave me autism, or because I had autism is why it was so troubling. One of the two, because it was stuck in like my craw. I couldn't let it go. And then I just, as I became, until like, I was an adult year old before I was like, oh, this happens to like other people. What? And like all the time, like what? So it made my experience look like, well, I guess I got off easy if this happens all the time. Like mine was a girl too. And just an older girl, you know, like, 'cause I was a little kid and she was a big kid, but like what other people have gone through is horrible. And we can't underestimate that impact into, and usually it's man on woman, that impact in the collective, that extreme thing that women feel they are not safe around men has deep and legitimate reasons. Like go watch the show The Outlander from old Scottish times. There's so much R-ing in that. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, it's true. And that really is a huge issue but I think it's really optimistic that it's coming up to be looked at now. And I do think we needed, like you said, to achieve some separation from each other in order to bring that up, because it's an extremely difficult topic. And like you said, it's almost ubiquitous in our culture, in our world, that this happens to people. I really don't know any woman who has not had this happen. And it's probably prevalent. It probably happens to a lot of men too. I don't know as many who have admitted it, but I do know men that it's happened to. So it really is something that has shaped our relationships on so many levels. And it is really something we need to purge and heal at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. And it goes back down to that, one of those core woundings, especially when she's back, it's Dyanna.
There was no warning on that one. I was just boop, gone.
I know. Like,
unless I jammed with you guys, I didn't notice.
Where did you fit? Yeah, I can't remember what you were saying now.
It was Kirsten that was talking, I think.
Oh.
And she was saying that just you started talking about the same subject, how it's really bad, how frequent it was and stuff like that. And then I was gone.
Yeah. Gone.
I mean, that's the kind of trauma that really messes you up, isn't it? And going back into the idea of safety that you were talking about around men, just like how many people have seen like their parents or aunts and uncles or whatever, you know, the violence, because that was really endemic back. I mean, maybe not when I was younger, but maybe a couple of years before. Do you know what I mean? Like it was just fading out. It was still normal that, you know, men was hitting women, and they'd, you know, talk down to them in public or whatever, you know.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. Yes. And I think it's because, and that's why I say we nag, they hit. because we make them nervous. That's true. We're the negative. We're supposed to be, we're chaos. Like we are supposed to make them nervous, but they're supposed to be guiding and directing in their own way. Like we're the mystical guiding, they're the practical guiding. It's supposed to be this back and forth, but women have this, and it's not just on men, this part, because women have, like I do it too. My dad was very authoritarian. And sometimes when my husband's really firm, I'm like, tee-hee. Like, you know, like, it's just like, I don't even like mind all the time. So like, there is something in the women that do like to be told what to do every now and then. And only sometimes, because sometimes I'll be like, tee-hee, and sometimes I'm like, don't you dare take it too far. You cross the line and I will snap. And we know who's the, like, honestly, like who wears the bigger scary pants. It's me. But, but that, like, that wasn't a thing once upon a time though. That, and my dad was good that way. He wasn't physically, well, he disciplined spankings, you know, but still, versus my mom upbringing, like she'd be like, it's like, and they were always, their favorite thing was, in my day, this is nothing, in my day, because they did have it really rough. Like even my dad, it's heartbreaking. He didn't even have toys. They were birthed to go work. Like they were the old farming era where they were birthed to go work. He was out working the fields at 5 years old. Like that's so sad, with no toys. Like, so little boys had it too. You know what I mean? Like, and so from that very beginning, they were broken. They were told to go be men, be tough, don't cry. What are you, a girl? So they were absolutely beaten just as much as kids probably, and belittled just as much. So that brainwashing is there for them. My anger with the men is that at no point you grew aware enough to be like, I shouldn't perpetuate this, where I feel like women usually have it more in them to kind of alchemize that, where it's like, this happened to me, or maybe that I'm just biased because I'm like that, but just because this happened to me, I'm definitely not going to go do that to you because that was awful. So why would I repeat that? Like that just seems common sense. But this is where I get into the point.
Like a built-in trauma though, it's that kind of a thing. Like it's like learned behavior. It isn't even like, oh, I don't like it. It's just like, oh, that's just normal. That's what we do. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because they've never known anything else. I mean, even then when you see it, it's hard to break those patterns, isn't it? Because they're already kind of established. So it's rewiring people's brains. So that's why they need actual proper help and psychology to look at that.
You're
but
right.
also the underlying traumas that, you know, that are being brought up by those things as well.
You're right. And trauma really is the basis of this entire matrix. I mean, this whole system that we're in would not exist without that core trauma. So it's been put on all of us in every way possible. And of course, that's part of what we're here to heal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's all of it. That's all of it. That's why we don't know the future. That's why we can't really like, how is it going to look? Because like, that's what I mean. Like, I do love being a mom and taking care of the kids, but hello, I'm right here doing a podcast with you guys. You know what I mean? Because I want purpose too, outside of the children, but still, like, I love writing my kids' books. That's actually got to be one of my favorite like outputs of me and my creativity is actually my kids' books, because it's still kids, but it's my creativity. It's something for me. They actually make money and they just fill me with joy. So like, where I love taking care of the kids, but I thought my kids were going to be like, I love my mommy, she's so nice, because I'm very nice. I'm a spoiler. And in fact, I'm having to take that back, because oh my God, then if you spoil them, then they just want more and more and more and more, and they're less thankful, and they're more like the difference between my daughter and my son. And she's like, you love him more. I'm like, no, he's just less difficult, because she was the full spoiled. And then Andrew's in the middle, and he doesn't, Andrew, but Aiden, he's not spoiled. He's a little bit spoiled. He has little moments and it's cute, but like, he does not have that. If I say something, it's yes, mommy. You know what I mean? Eventually I might have to convince him a little, but there's no screaming and arguing. I was already arguing with her at 4. Not that we scream and argue, you know what I mean? I just don't like
That's a different girls.
Oh, yeah. Are we that difficult? Is that why we got slapped? No.
I actually got slapped there when I was younger, and it did traumatize me. It really did actually. I got a right whack off my dad. So much so, it was burning for hours afterwards. He really did crack me.
Mm-hmm.
And that it does something to you. But then it's like, because you've kind of accepted, I mean, to be fair, it was based in the past life trauma as well, but this is what I mean. It literally starts like a cycle of trauma then, because you're traumatized by your child and you internalize it. And then you pull all these situations to you, so unconsciously, because that's what we do. We manifest things in our lives, don't we, that need to be addressed, or like mirror situations. And you're putting all this into you. So you might then, because you've been hit by your dad, get abusive husbands, or think that, you know, that sort of thing is tolerated. So you might pull friends in that maybe don't physically hurt you, but hurt you in other ways, you know. And it's all to do with like working through that trauma, basically. But then you end up having a really shit life because of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my sister could vouch for that. He wasn't, and they're the ones that just broke up. Although I actually still like him personally. But and I broke those patterns too, though. See, that's the thing. And that might be being a projector, being a star seed. Like, when I see wrong, it's just like, well, let's just fucking fix that. You know, like I did kind of do it with friends that took advantage of me, but that was more because I was a super people pleaser, because that was my own addiction to approval. And if projectors can do that, or that way.
But why did you want approval? Why did you want approval?
Projectors need it. Projectors need it for energy. Projectors need validation. It's part of our energy system. If you actually read about us, we need people to invite us to stuff, and then we need people to appreciate us for that stuff, or we have just no energy because we don't actually make our own energy. It comes from, and it's not like we're taking, it's like people can use the vampire analogy. You won't feel like we took any energy, because it's like you create that energy, and it's just like making more energy for the both of you, where it's like a two-way thing, or it should be. I think it's a two-way thing. Tell me if you feel drained, Sam.
You good?
Yeah, you're with two projectors now, right? We're two projectors. Like my parents were both projectors, and so was my sister and her ex. They were both projectors. So if you have two projectors together, you're going to have a bad time, because you're going to burn each other out. Even if you super love each other, like my parents, you're going to burn each other out hard, and that's just a recipe for, you know, an unhappy existence. They super loved each other, so they had a lot of love, like other people don't even have. Like they were super in love. Like some people don't ever get that. And but whoa, the energy. So it was like a real toss up, but it's just one of those things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, when you start looking at human design, though, that does kind of explain that, like with the dynamics in some relationships. Obviously, it's not everything, but especially when you look at like the energy levels, it's like, what can you actually put in? You know, it's like, what's your purpose? How are you going to make it work? And I suppose if you have children and your children are generators, it's probably a bit easier, but yeah.
One of each. I have a manifesting generator, a projector, that's Andrew, and then Aiden's a manifester. So I got like a whole sample platter. And then my husband's a generator. So between our whole family, we are all 5. So talk about my life being meant for human design. I have an example for each and every sign. Oh, no, I don't have a reflector. Never mind. Take it back. Almost got them all. But reflectors are only that like 1%.
Maybe you need to have another one just so you can have a reflect.
Gotta catch them all.
It's experiments on Pokemon with the children.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, that's breaking it down further from you can't. This is what I mean. You can't just go men and women. There's just so much to it. Although I do appreciate and I do agree with what we've talked about, like the division society. But then I just think, you know,
no, it triggers my ego. So you're probably right. Like as soon as I'm like, here's some, what, men weren't the bad? Oh, you know, of course they were. But then you talk about.
I was a raging feminist, because she was, and they were like socialists, and they were like, we'll vote Labour, and like death to the government. Not really death, but you know, they were like, oh, they were brought up knowing that the government was corrupt, and that, you know, I mean, I'm a bit of a liberal, really, but
my kids are being brought up that way.
Yeah, like I've come from like a family of like really like my mum's side. They're all very intelligent people. And we're all like staunch socialists and like anti-government and, you know, pro-individuation and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, in the expression of their time, not like we would probably think of it now. But yes, that was like the foundation of me being brought up. So my mum was always like, you're a self-sufficient woman, Sam. Don't rely on any man, and blah, 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 blah. And then I've been unpicking this because we had a conversation that was down about it, and I went away and thought about it. And I was like, why don't I want a man to provide for me?
I know. That's why I was like, why wouldn't I?
Like, well, yeah, I was like, why is this the problem? If somebody came to look after you, and was all right with that, why is that why are you so against it? And I was like, fuck, it was a program. It was yeah. You will not.
It was.
Yeah.
I got that program
by my
too.
mother. Yeah, go on, sorry.
Yeah, my mom and my aunt, the same thing. I mean, my aunt, when I was 11 or 12, got me a subscription to Ms. Magazine, which was the ultimate feminism propaganda at that time, you know, back in the late 70s. And they were always like, well, you can't depend on a man. You have to be a woman. This is one of my favorite sayings from that time. It was in that magazine. A woman without a man is like a fish without a bicycle. And I had a t-shirt that said that. I was like, yeah, I don't need a man to take care of me. But then I had this other program going because my mom also didn't feel like she could make a living by herself because she had been raised to be the woman. You know, because when she was growing up, that was the role that they expected her to play. So she had this dual thing going on. And I got the same thing. I inherited that from her, where I got this, oh, I can't really take care of myself by myself, but I don't need a man. Which is really, you know, it's a complete mind fuck, because then what are you going to do? You can't be alone and you can't be with a man. You know? I'm
Then gay.
helpless. I can't do anything.
Yeah, just forget lesbianism. I think that's what they're trying to tell you.
Well, apparently they have the highest divorce rate. They have the highest divorce rate. They make that joke about marriage. I forget which comedian it was, and they're like, "Oh, the rates of divorce." But you look at straight couples, gay men, and gay women, and we can clearly see, because gay men have less divorce than even like heterosexual couples. So like they look at the problem, they're like, I don't think the men were the problem. And it's like, lol, because it's hard to argue with like the evidence, because lesbian couples have a huge divorce rate, and then meanwhile the gay men don't.
Lesbians more like men and gay men more like women, though.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah,
I like that.
Think so.
That's a very good point.
Because every lesbian marriage I've ever known has broken up. I mean, I haven't known that many, but you know, I've known three lesbian couples, and they're all divorced now.
Yeah,
they got married.
Yeah. Me too. Wow, that's a second anomaly. It's like
That's funny. And to go back to your earlier point, Kirsten, I even wrote it down because this is onto what you were saying about the division of our things. Money is the control factor. And that's what I knew. I even just knew that. But that's that. And then it was subconscious. Like they might not even have been able to explain it. But having a job and having money was their safety against having to put up with this guy that was beating or abusing or just bossing her around, right? Because even if they were like nice, even back then, they'd be bossing them around at least. Like you'd have very many, because nowadays there's a lot of nice men. Like my husband's very nice. He treats me very well. But like, I remember going through my life and like, I talk about the life I was going to have. My mom always be like, how are you going to afford that? Because I was very lazy. I was notoriously lazy. I didn't like to do schoolwork. I didn't like to get up. You know, I was just ridiculous. And that very much bothered her because she was very, very, very active, busy, ambitious, clean. And she told me, she's like, how are you going to do all this life stuff? I'm like, my husband will take care of it. And she'd be like, how are you going to figure that out? Because they were very much like money doesn't grow on trees. They had all the narratives, you know, to cancel and nullify, because that's just, you know. But I'd be like, well, I'm going to marry a doctor. And then funny enough, he wasn't a nurse when I met him because we met in journalism school, but he's a nurse and now he's the nurse manager. So it's like, I kind of did marry a doctor. And well, close. Even the kids, because his outfit, they're like, you're a doctor. He's like, I'm a nurse. You're a doctor. So it's cute. But but I still have that like wanting to matter myself, that need to still be the one in control. But at the same time, understanding that like women need to relax more than men. That's just first and foremost, like not even just projectors, but all women need way more rest. We need to deal with our actual 28-day cycle, because that's not a joke. Our hormones are nothing to mess with. Like the way they're on like a 4-week schedule, like we are not the same person from week to week to week. And so some weeks we're grumpy, some weeks we're really sad, some weeks we have no energy because we need iron, you know, put it that way. Like we literally, you know, are literally out of energy. And there's so many factors to this. And then not even to mention like, so even if we are to work, it should like, you're a yoga instructor, Kirsten, like that's perfect. And even Sam, when she was a nurse, that's actually, I think they work too much for what a female would probably be best in for like schedule wise, 12 hours, 40 hours a week at least, and then usually lots of overtime, so that's too much working. But the job itself is great, like just caretaking, taking like whatever the element is, where our ability to like see emotions clearer, give advice like you were saying, just nurture, because there's so many places you could put nurture.
There is. But you know, jobs like that, for instance, being a yoga instructor, it doesn't pay enough for me to actually make a full living at it. And I have found with a lot of those jobs, I mean, obviously not nursing, because nursing, at least in the US and apparently Canada, nursing pays really well. But like most of the jobs that I've found where I could really be nurturing did not pay me enough, you know. And like right now, I'm really struggling with this because the yoga just doesn't pay enough. And frankly, I'm kind of burned out on it because I've given so much. I've given so much to teaching yoga. And it's never, I won't say that it hasn't been satisfying, because I do love to see the influence I have in people's lives and my ability to really help them, and to see the difference as people continue to come to my classes, and to watch them transform is really a wonderful gift. Unfortunately, that gift does not pay my bills. So what I'm struggling with right now is, well, how am I going to pay my bills? Because this is obviously not going to be something that I can rely on to pay my bills. So I think, you know, it's also finding the value there, because I think all of the things that women, as true, you know, feminine women, bring to the table have really been devalued. People don't value that. People don't value that even keeping the house and taking care of the children, that's not valued. Bringing that nurturing influence, it's not really, at least in my experience, it's not as valued as it really could be. And I do think it's a lot more valuable than, say, pushing papers every day. But but the values have been so inverted, you know, the values have been so inverted. I've had people say to me, well, but you know, yoga isn't really like a serious job. Why would you expect to get paid for it? I'm like, well, you know, I have basically a freaking master's degree in yoga, and I'm an experienced teacher. Why would I not expect to get paid?
It's right, because it's a fun job. If you're doing something enjoyable, that should be good enough. That's what they say about spiritual people in general, and like anybody that's a healer or something like that. Oh, why should you charge? You should just do that. And I get it because it's healing, but at the same time, like if you don't value yourself, especially a projector, but like everybody, if you don't value yourself, if you don't take your worth, Sam taught me that actually. Sam was the one who, when I met her and she settled, I was like, and that did so much for my energy. It was amazing, because like I wasn't, time is money, and like I don't want it to be, and we really do need to fix inflation and stuff like that. But when you think about money as an energy source, like I gave you this because, and it's really complicated. You're like, then people, oh, you're selfish, you should just give this to me. But if we did that to absolutely everybody, we'd burn out. Like that's
it's
not one guy, but like
exactly.
Everything's an energy exchange.
And I've had people say to me, why would you charge for energy work? Because that's just God energy. And I'm like, well, yeah, but I have worked really hard to be a clear channel here. I haven't just, you know, been like, oh, let me be an energy work healer, and here it is. I've worked this. You know, being a clear channel is not an easy thing. And also, this is my time and my gift. And you know, you wouldn't, if I hired you to do my accounting, you wouldn't expect me to not pay you for it. But if I do something healing,
you could be like, what, you know math, why should I pay you? You already know math. Like, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I'm sorry, Sam, I interrupted you. What were you going to say?
No, it's fine. Continue what you were saying.
I'm finished.
Okay.
For the moment.
Yeah, I forgot what I was going to say. It's fine.
I had that. You want to know a funny story? I was super happy to me yesterday on my solo. I was like going good. It was awesome. And I'm not blaming Karen, but it was funny because I did that. She's like, oh, I like your, because I was telling a story about my finger. because it got sliced open. I'm like, look at my finger. It's sliced. Now the nail's ruined, ironically. But it's sliced open. And then I was about to tell the amazing story of how I healed it myself with cayenne pepper because it was big about the medical industry. And then Karen goes, oh, I like your nails. And I just like completely forgot my story. I was like, oh, yeah. And then I started talking about my nails and I was like, oh, and I look like such a girl. Very on topic for today, I guess. Because I had to go comment after because it never came back to me.
Oh no! Did you actually heal your finger with cayenne pepper?
Oh yeah, I healed. I've been stabbed twice in the hand, and the last time it like extended my life, or no, the first time it extended my lifeline, and this is within the last year. So it's like something's trying to mess with my hands.
Whoa.
But I was cleaning up one of Andrew's many messes, and he'd broken a picture frame, and I had a glove on, and it went stabby in. It got the bone. It was the worst feeling ever. It was like bang off the bone. It was very sore for a very long time.
Oh my
And it was
gosh.
just gushing blood. The glove was but I was just like, because I'd already learned from Barbara O'Neill, cayenne pepper. So I went and I got cayenne pepper and I just loaded it up and that healed. So then when this happened, because that stabbing the bone, they're equally, but this one was a flap. This one was like it was a flap and a jaggerty one because it was like a serrated knife. It was really, it's, again, so much blood. But this one, I was not sure because it was an actual flap. But I put it back up, taped it with cayenne pepper inside it. With cayenne pepper inside it, let it heal that way. Because I don't know, the body just took it. And then, yeah, and it healed. It's a crazy scar because the other one actually healed. You can't even... Yeah, I think it was this hand because you can't even see it. That one healed, but this one was a flap. So it has a scar, but I did it myself. You know what I mean? I could have gone to the emergency room for like a day or cayenne pepper.
That's amazing. That's really cool. And I wanted to say a couple of things. First of all, the hands are connected to the heart. So if that gives you any insights. The other thing I wanted to bring it back to is you said, oh, my nails, you remembered your nails and you started talking. And then you said, I'm such a girl. And I mean, I'm guilty of this too. So I'm not, but even that, it's like, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with being a girl? What's wrong with saying, oh, my nails are pretty? You know what I mean?
It's true. Well, I actually went on an energy tangent.
Yeah.
I was like, I kept when I was being like telling people, yeah, you keep going on your thing.
No, I was just thinking, it's so built into our culture to denigrate the whole female thing that, it just, even in our language and how we express things. And, I've even like said to some of my male friends that when they've gotten what I thought was ridiculously dramatic, I've been like, oh, don't be such a girl. And then I'm like, well,
I do that even myself sometimes. Yeah, what are you, a girl? Yeah. I mean, what are you, not tough?
Yeah. And it's like, wait, what?
Yeah, that word's got a sub-meaning. It's true. And it's funny too, because there is a big divide, like where there's the girls that are super into beauty and like, but they keep going, they've really like, they're polarizing and they've gone really far and they're like, getting all kinds of work done. And then like, there's this narrative on them. And then there's the other, and it's like, oh, well, if you're smart and stuff, you should look like this. And then, or if you're the pretty girl, you should look like this. And it's like, no, like I'm all about amalgamating all the archetypical looks that are mine, not
I am too. And the thing that used to really irritate me, particularly when I was hanging out with my husband's band way back in the day, and I was considered to be a very pretty girl. And people were always surprised when I started speaking to them and I used big words and said intelligent things. And it really used to annoy me. And I even used to pretend that I wasn't intelligent for a long time because they didn't like it. It was like, oh, well, be pretty.
No, I doubled down. I had the same thing, but I doubled down. And then it actually made me research and get smarter because they would be obsessed in that age. They were obsessed with just trying to prove me wrong. It's not like they're like, oh, you're a girl, you shouldn't be smart, but they did think it. And they would always try to like overly prove me wrong. And I had no problem. That's why most of my arguments and everything have always been with men, like always, because like they get intimidated by that. Just like, don't tell, and especially the way I talk to, because I'm very like, boop, you know, I'm not like, guess what I know, you know, like it's just very direct. And I actually am smart and I can back it up. So they get like all, I don't know, they kind of got a kick out of it though. I don't think it, because these were my friends. So they kind of did get older friends, because my husband's the youngest and we hung out with his older brother and all his friends. That was our crew for a long time. And all of them, it's funny, you could see just then, because they were like bottom line Gen X, or you know what I mean, to like us being millennials, like the difference was already staggering.
Yeah, I agree. Well, yeah. And I actually had a friend tell me one time, she was trying to fix me up with a guy, you know, because I've been chronically single ever since I got divorced, pretty much. Well, that's not completely true, but she was trying to fix me up with a guy, and she said, I think you just need to dumb it down a little bit, because the guys I'm fixing you up with are just telling me you're too smart. And I was like, well, if they think I'm too smart for them, then I am. And it's like,
just ask them to open some jars. Like, give them some jars. Be like, open these jars for me. And then they'll feel appreciated.
Yes. Exactly.
That's funny.
Oh my gosh. Well, I did want to shift it, because I was thinking in terms of the divine feminine. One of the things I wanted to cover today was the triple goddess, and also the Trinity, and sort of, you know, compare and contrast that. And I thought that you would be really good at addressing that, you know, the maiden and the
mother and the crone,
and then the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. Yeah.
That's funny you say that, because you're just being intuitive. Because earlier when I was having that revelation about the mother, that's why I kept saying the goddess. I meant, like, because I think of the mother as the middle pillar of the female. You know what I mean? The like Christ is the middle pillar of the other the male Trinity. Well, the mother is the middle pillar of the female Trinity, where it's like in its perfect balance, where she's still, and this is like for just life, it's not just to children, because I feel like I just keep getting this like gnosis that is so important and deeply required right now from all women, and that's truly what they want. That's why there is the obsession with like dogs and women. I love dogs too. I have them myself, so I'm not like pooing it, but like the really increase in dogs. And I heard women in the workplace, the reason they go kind of nuts is because they kind of like, and we're talking business places, is they are feeling like they should have that place, but it gets really twisted, because that's how women actually would be in the workplace. Well, I say we just allow it. Like, just be, like, let that archetype of the mother shine, even if it's at work, even if she's not, like, it doesn't matter about children. It's about that. It's just nurturing. You could really just call it the nurturer, because the world and its trauma, like we were talking about earlier, which is just, whoa, it is so intense. It is so huge. So it's not just nurturing men, because men do need a lot. I almost think like a lot more than women, because women have women, like women, they are a woman. So they can almost in a way kind of see that themselves. But I could be wrong. I end up talking to myself and like therapizing myself. Everyone might not be able to do that. But like men, I think, get really stuck in their emotions. Like all the time when my husband's upset, I'm like, why are you upset? He's like, I'm not upset. And then, but I keep poking and prodding, and someone at work did this or that, or his brother just said this, or there's not, because he is a stellium in Cancer. So he's very like, you know, but he's so unaware of when he has emotions, and I'll literally walk him through his emotions and I'll heal him from it. So like now at this point, together 19 years, I'm like, please don't argue with me on this. You know, I know, let's just get to it. Like, like what's wrong? Because there's so much just therapy and nurturing that is required on all of society right now. And when you get hurt, when you get sick, what does your heart long for? Your mom, right? Your mom. And not everyone has a mom, and even more people have moms that just are not in that place to be that for them. But us, especially spiritually awakening people, I think could just naturally embody the mother. And there's more every day. How you doing, Sam?
I agree.
Sorry, I had a drug emergency.
So,
okay.
I'm not lagging, Kirsten. Is there a lag?
There's a lag. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It's all right. I suspected there was, because every time I talk, you'd start talking over me. And I was like, this is like the 5th time now. There must be a lag.
Yeah, I'm used to Kirsten's lag. Yeah, I think she always has a bit of a lag. Country
It's
life.
Yeah.
something like you today. Yeah, sorry, I was just curious whether you knew or not. I would sort to know what was going on. I was like, this is so unusual. What's going on? But then because I'm like I am, and then I'm forgetting what I'm going to say. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, oh no, what's going on? Kind of thing. Sorry, that was just me going on a bit of a sojourn. What was going on? But carry on.
I think you were the one talking to begin with.
Yeah.
I know, and then she started talking because I'm like, oh, it's that fucking lag. Sorry. It's like, it's the fucking lag again, and then it's gone. But what you were talking about the mother, weren't you, Dyanna? Right, yeah. You were talking about the middle pillar, that's what I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, because Kirsten mentioned the crone, the maiden, and the mother as the Trinity, and I was
Yeah.
like, it's the middle pillar of the female.
Yeah. I mean, it's or the man as well, the male, because it's the nurturing archetype, isn't it? So I can see what you mean, but I think it's more like each one is equally important. Do you know what I mean? Like when you look at it, and if you were going to put it in the same kind of category as like the Kabbalistic tree of life, like with severity and mercy, do you know what I mean? It's not really.
We just mean for like what's useful for like society going forward. Like that's just my thoughts. Like, what could society use more? Could it use a maiden? There's lots of maidens. Could it use a crone? Probably, but she'd be just here talking wisdom. When we're talking about day-to-day life and all these women in the workforce right now, like,
But when you're a crone, you're still a mother.
True. But we're imagining, like, I guess if you could embody but a crone, I'm imagining a crone as a sage, and a sage just wouldn't want to be like in an office. It's just like what I'm seeing. If you were like the crone, you would be like sitting still and being wise. You wouldn't be like out and about. Where like the mother's busy. She's out and about. She's taking care of stuff. She's getting stuff done. She's whatever the situation would be. But yeah, if you pulled the crone on at work, you'd be good too. Probably not so much the maiden, but the crone could probably help in a lot of situations that require wisdom. In politics, we can get some crones in politics. That'd be probably even better than the mother if we had some crones in politics. And that kind of energy has its value too. They both have their value. But if we're talking society and how to just fix everybody's trauma, because they all have it, as they wake up, they realize it more and more every day, and just the dysfunctionality of society and passive aggressive behavior, like all these resentments building within the self that just keep permeating and then coming out in inappropriate manners. Like you see this a lot. Like it's hard to just walk down a street, especially if you're in a city, and not see multiple people, and they actually look normal. Like they don't look like hobos. It's like you're watching average guys with briefcases going like weird.
Yeah. I mean, you touched on the interesting thing about that kind of wounding. And I just, it just seemed to come down from I mean, this is the thing with men. Men have the mother wound, but they hold it differently to what women do. And I think you did, maybe it was Steve's show, the alchemist, is just like, when I'm in my healed masculine and like there's a problem, I don't go, what are you doing? But and be like defensive to like, who hurt you? What's going on? How can I help you? How can I fix you? How can I make you safe? And the woman in her, healed feminine aspect would be, how can I love you? How can I soften with you? How can I give you that energy and that care and that support? So I think the top and bottom is it's all to do with healing our own inner wounds, and it goes back to that generational trauma thing. We're pulling all these wounds from previous generations that are passed down to us. Sometimes we don't even have to experience it, because we carry them in our genetics as well, and they express themselves in certain ways. Even if you've not had the same sort of thing happen to you. And that's why I made a tweet earlier, was that healing the mother wound, basically, healing the wound that healing my mother's wounds that I'm carrying within me, and her mother's wounds. And that's the thing, when you come into these family as like kind of the awakened, I don't know what you kind of call it, but you're coming in with all these light codes, and you're coming in to change the timelines and to fix that generational, because it's genetic, isn't it? You're holding your genetics. So as you're healing the trauma, you're actually rewiring your genetics, and because time's non-linear, you're actually going back to all your ancestors, and basically fixing that then. So it's a huge big thing when we're coming in, we're talking about the masculine and the feminine. It isn't just like, you know, it's a man and woman, blah, 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 blah. It's to do with like the whole creative process, like the whole passing on life, passing on information, the evolution of the soul and the human experience, you know?
100%. Yeah, exactly. Because that's the name of the game right now. That is what it is. It's discussing it in a million different ways too, because it's so multifaceted. Especially as we like expand consciousness, you realize everything was so layered, like why people did things and why anything is the way it is. It is so many layers. Like this person thought A, but this person thought B, and like all these creations have happened from multiple different perspectives. But one of the things, like Sarah said, and I was just telling Stephen this morning, one of the things Sarah says is that if you're to do one thing, just one, if you want to know where to start, what to do, just do one thing: heal the inner child. Because healing the inner child, that's like healing the soul and allowing it to fuse back into the body without all the debris that comes from trauma. And I like, yeah, what you said there about ancestors. Like pretty much anytime I do spiritual work, like of healing of the self, and honestly all the time now, because I do it so much, like now they're just hurt people, especially my mom herself. But like I go back and I heal my mom, I heal my grandma, especially because she was the one that was schizophrenic, so imagine demons. And then I heal my great grandma, and then I just leave it and then just go anybody before that also, you know, value from this healing, because I don't want to go too far because I don't actually know who they are. But I don't want to just spread the energy wide, but I can feel the connection deeply, especially with my mom and my grandma, because like that magical lineage, it's so strong. And healing that, like I actually can viscerally feel the effect you're talking about, Sam. Like I can feel that happening.
Yeah, you do. You feel it leave. I know you were having a thing, Kirsten, weren't you, the other day, where something came back, the soul priest came back to you.
Yes. I think, was that yesterday? I think it was yesterday. I did. And it was after I did some healing work with the inner child and with the ancestral, and also with past lives, because we also carry these traumas forward from past lives, which is really interesting. And I think that also really affects our relationships now between the genders, because I think that there's on both sides a lot of it, just knowing from delving into my own past lives and going, oh wow, you know, I really did some hideous things to the men in my lives. And I think, and obviously they did some really hideous things to me. And so, you know, we are actually healing multidimensionally our ancestors and our past lives. And so it really is really getting in there deep. And I think the inner child wound is really the core wound. It's that child, you know, it's coming right into the world and entering into trauma, because that's what you do when you come here. So yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah. And what you said earlier about like, oh no, go ahead, Sam.
No, I was just going to say, but I'm going to go on a rant about birth trauma. Go on, what were you going to say?
You do it. Go.
I don't want to be all demanding now, and I had a bit of a wobble. It was just a lag. I was like, bloody lag. Yeah, I didn't want to consider as being a prima donna. I can be there, I'll be honest. But anyway, yeah, I wasn't at that point. Yeah, the birth trauma. That's the big thing, isn't it? Because you're coming in, like birth is traumatic, and this is what I want to explore. Really, does it have to be that traumatic? Do you know? Is it because this is the thing? So we're going in the hospital systems, especially. I've had 2 children. You've had 3 children. Then I don't know if you had a home birth or not. I wasn't lucky enough to have one. I did
midwives, but I did the hospital.
Yeah. So I mean, my first birth was terrible, and I'm really glad I was there. But then part of me is like, maybe if I'd had a more holistic health team, they'd have picked it, because the things that happened to me could have been avoided. Do you know what I mean? And that's the whole part of the trauma as well, like not being like listened to, because that's a big thing for women, isn't it? You feel like you're just not listened to. And I watched what's it called, Rick and Morty, the other day, and there's an episode where, you know, there's the giant sperms, basically. I don't know if you've seen that one.
I've seen them all. I've seen them all at some point.
Okay. But it's a giant sperm one. And basically Summer's going to all like the president and all these people, you know, it's this, blah, 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 you need to do this, you need a giant egg to lure them away. And then they just ignore it. And then the guys go, hey, this is a sperm expert. What are we going to do? And he's like, oh, we'll get a giant egg to lure the sperm away. And they're like, well, get this man a medal. Do you know what I mean? And then, like,
yeah.
then
Exactly. That used to happen to me and Patrick in school. I'd see something. No one
she went, today you're a woman. Like, so do you know what I mean? Like, it's just that's that a rite of passage. Almost. Go on. So what are you going to say about Patrick?
No, just that it's happened to me where like, and he'd laugh because he'd notice, he heard me talk, but I say something and the crowd just doesn't even react. Patrick repeats what I said, but like sometimes he can, especially before, because I used to be worse. Twitter actually fixed me a lot because of the open throat, right? So maybe they didn't understand me, but Patrick would repeat what I said, and then everyone, oh yeah, the good point. He'd get like praise for what I did not. I said that. What? And he just laughed, and I swear to God, they wouldn't even hear me say that.
Indignity of it. Yeah. It's like, oh, we're going to brush over that. We're not going to even acknowledge that. Oh, hysterical female. Do you know what I mean?
I've been called that. Yeah.
Yeah,
when
me too.
You're annoyed because you're not listening. You're like, oh, I mean, I do because I'm terrible, as you can see. But I'm like, listen to me, don't ignore me, you motherfuckers. And then they're just like, oh, hysterical female. It's like, fuck you. Justifies.
That's right.
It's true. I know.
I think me and Kirsten, there's something I was telling me and my sister. And if anybody does anything now and then we do it, we do something like in retaliation, but it was warranted to go, justified.
Justified.
That's funny.
Gave the kids Benadryl. Justified. No, couldn't.
Do they have a rash? No.
Maybe.
You know what's funny is I actually had planned on being that kind of mom when I was younger because I didn't know anything though. I trusted. I was very into medicine. I was in pain all the time because I was at fibromyalgia, allergic to gluten, didn't know any of it. So in my very younger days before kids, but I knew I wanted them, I was like, why are people whining about kids? Like, because a lot of my people were just like, oh, I'm not even having kids. It's too hard. I'm like, how is it hard? Like, just give them some Benadryl. Like, what? Like, I was just like, because I took it to sleep sometimes. You know what I mean? But then being pregnant with my daughter is when I woke up and I was just like, because I started doing research, things just actually started. Well, actually, no, I was waking up before that, but I just kept waking up, and I probably just realized at that point, I'm like, I went from being, I'm going to give my kids Benadryl to go to sleep to I don't even get them vaccinated. You know, like it was such a jump in allowing, though I do, obviously they get medicine sometimes if they need it, but not oh god, there's so many horror stories. It's got to be really needed. Especially Gravel, I was told that one was good, and I'd use it when they were sick because kids puke all the time, but apparently now it's a neurotoxin. And even though that was prescribed to me when I was pregnant with my daughter, and I had these little tiny little, and they had like a little pregnant lady on it, and they were like a prescription version of Gravol, but a smaller version. And now it's out as a specific neurotoxin for children, like in their neurodevelopment. I'm like, what the mother F? Like, it's just, you can't trust anything because like, well, I guess
this is another thing, like an inversion of the women, because they're putting women against women. Like, because I went to the midwife, she's got this student midwife, obviously because I did nursing after that, but I knew what she did was really bad. So I sat down, and then the student midwife just wiped my arm and went, yeah, I'm going to give you this injection, give me an injection. Didn't ask my consent, didn't tell me
like
what
the oxytocin. Was it the oxytocin that induced labor?
No, it was polio vaccination.
I had my midwife try to give me a whooping cough one, and we fought about it every time I went in. She was a creeper.
That's the one, sorry. Yeah. They didn't ask me. They went, the student nurse said, oh, I need to do this, just put it in my arm. And I was like, what the fuck are you doing, basically? She's like, oh, it's your whooping cough vaccination. I was like, what? So they, essentially, which is like, it's like, no, I could have been allergic to that. You'd not even asked me if I'd got any allergy.
I was allergic to it when I was a kid. I told my mom about this incident because she was still alive when it happened. And she was like, oh, don't take that. And she's pro-vaccine. She was pro-vaccine. She's like, oh, don't get that one. You had a horrible reaction to that when you were younger. And I was a certain kind of kid that spent lots of time in the hospital when I was little. She's like, you had a horrible reaction. And meanwhile, they tried to give it to me again when I was pregnant. Didn't ask anything like that. Didn't ask those questions. And I literally had a bad reaction. And I didn't remember because I was so young. My mom told me, and I was like, whoa, like just this plot got more nefarious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your mum was like, don't take it. Go on, Sir Kirsten.
I guess that's how bad it was when I was a
just
kid.
was
Like, I guess it was bad.
Yeah. But that the whole system's set up to traumatize you. Like especially going into the medical system, having children, like the appointments and everything, it's just, I don't know. It takes away the care. Whereas like you'd have a midwife that would come to your house like back in the day, they'd see you all right, but then you'd have like all your family around you, wouldn't you? You'd have like aunts and not uncles, but aunts and grandmas and, you know, Sheila over the road and Aunt Jessie 4 doors down, and you'll like be able to tell you the horror stories about labour. But they don't know what to do with the kids and stuff. And it was like you got this family support network around you. And that was the wisdom. And it was like the women were the wisdom keepers. You know, like back in the day, you know, there were women like women would learn how to birth other women essentially. You know, maybe be like a midwife or somebody that would go around and or a medicine woman, and they'd be able to deal with like the more complicated things. But generally, childbirth was just like, this is what's going to happen. Get on with it, really. But they had the tools and the stuff to kind of deal with it. Where it was natural, you know, they would crouch down to give birth and things like that. And then even like that, going into hospital and laying on your back to give birth is like fucking insane. Like, and they put practices in place. So the midwives will be like, oh no, this is the practice. This is standard practice. This is what we're meant to do. And it's like, why? Oh well, you know, NICE have said, NICE Institute of Excellence, they've said that, you know, women, the studies have indicated that women on their back are more, you know, blah 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 blah. And it's like, that's bonkers. That has got no relevance or basis in science at all. You're meant to go out. You use fucking gravity. Do you know what I mean? You shouldn't be on your back. It's taught. I tried getting up and there was like, oh no, Sam, get back on the bed. And I ended up looking myself in the toilet and telling them to go fuck themselves.
Good. I did the same thing, except the locking in the toilet and the fucking themselves. But I did tell one of them to F off at some point because don't even get me started. Never mind. But she's just annoying. And I'm literally in the middle of the labor. And she was actually very ignorant. But that midwife was actually good. This was the midwife's assistant, or maybe a nurse. Who knows? But I was standing all through Aiden's birth. I walked into the hospital. Everyone was like, you're nuts. And I felt like, no. But it was actually like walking through the hospital as you're having contractions because I was trying to walk them out. I was walking them out. And I know that helps. And then when I got there, I stayed standing literally as long as possible. There is a point where you do start to collapse. There is a point where you do start to like the contractions are so like when you're having natural birth, like, so what the F that I did have to sit down. But like, I feel like we could design something for that. Like, I feel like we could make a crouch machine or something, which I'm sure we used to do in the pools, right? Yeah.
You sit in the pool or you sit in the toilet. You sit. So you're like, your knees are up and you're the whole point is a squatting position. And it extends all your bits out in the right. And do you know what I mean? It's like we're physiologically designed to hold that position. I mean, back in the day, they would sit and that would be comfortable. And you'd have the pelvic that, wouldn't you? So you're going, Kirsten.
And it is comfortable when you do it all the time. And you know, if you go to Asia, you'll see these elderly ladies that are just, you know, that's how they sit. They just squat down.
I practice that. I do the Asian squat.
Yeah, the Asian squat. That's what they call it, or garland pose. But you know, it really is the ideal pose for opening the hips. And if you do it on a regular basis and your spine is straight when you're doing it, I mean, obviously you have to be very flexible compared to, you know, chairs have really been a very detrimental thing to a lot of people's health, I think, because people used to just squat all the time. And it is comfortable if you do it all the time. It's because you're perfectly grounded and your body's in perfect alignment when you do it. So it is really, if you're accustomed to that and you do that position all the time, that would be the ideal way to give birth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And not to mention, strong legs is a longer life. Like for excuses
Yes.
to do that Asian pose every day, where like it's different than a squat, and your like legs are all the way. I've heard it called goddess pose too, I think. And it just
Oh,
when you're
that one is more goddess poses, when you're standing up and your feet are really wide and their toes are pointed out. Of course, you want to point your toes slightly out in garland pose too, in the Asian squat, because that protects your knees. But
yeah, that's part of the
yeah,
Asian. Yeah. Oh, is it
yeah,
garland? Maybe I mixed it up. Garland pose.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
you're the yogi.
Goddess pose is standing with your feet really, really wide and your toes pointed out, and you sink the tailbone down, and it opens the inner groin muscles, but it's not a comfortable pose that you would want to hold for a long period of time. But it is a really good, like, it's a really good manifestation pose, and it's a really good grounding pose. So it helps you to ground, and it also helps you to bring, I mean, I had this thing happen to me I don't know when it was, a month or two ago, where I just had this epiphany that I used to, in another life, dance like that. And that was the manifestation part of the dance, was taking that pose and dropping the tailbone and bring. So it is a sort of a birthing pose, but it's not a comfortable pose. You probably wouldn't want to do it when you were in labor.
Yes, but it's good for strengthening legs. I try to work. Apparently, your
Yeah.
legs matter deeply, and there's like an extra heart in your calf. Like it's not an actual heart, but like there's a certain mechanism that acts like a heart in your calf, and that do you ever remember learning about that before? Like the information that's coming online that
Yes.
could help. And now I get why compression socks work. So clearly they knew this, because my sister used to work at an orthotics place because she's a medical admin. And that was a thing. And I was like, why? Like, I hate them. But I didn't know there's like this heart in your calf.
It's a reflex muscle, because when you contract it, it basically pushes everything back up.
Exactly.
And that's why you put in stockings, because what happens is the valves in your legs, as you get older, get weakened, so you get backflow. So, I mean, this is going that the heart's just a pump, which might not technically be true, but yeah, that's why, like, if you're wanting to move your lymphatic fluid as well, you need to be active, because there's no actual pump system to your lymphatics. It's all done on the muscle tension elimination.
Yeah, I'm always doing things like this, and like getting
It's
the
your
lymph going.
lymphatics. Yeah.
I get
It's like your legs.
ones. Yeah.
That's why you get like old ladies with big swell, or old men even with big swollen legs. It's because they're not moving, basically, and the muscles and things aren't working properly. So the transport system, obviously a bit of a nurse bit there coming out for you.
No, my mother-in-law, she used to be a very slender woman, and I've said before, she had a very massive stroke, and she's bedridden. She can't move at all. She can't even eat. She's a feeding tube. She can't talk, nothing. So obviously no moving, and she is swollen right up. The woman's on an eating tube. You can't say it's weight. Like I feel so, every time I see her, she's just more swollen. If you didn't know about her, you'd think she was like an overweight person, but she's never in her life. She's always been a very fit, slender person. And just every time.
She had heart failure.
Oh, it's been a very long time. That's what I thought at first. I thought it was something more dire. I was like, oh God, you're not going to last long. But I didn't feel that ping. I know when people are going to die. And
you can have that for years.
Yeah. Can it take a long time?
Yeah.
Oh.
Years and years you can have it. It gets worse and worse.
Oh shit. Yeah, she had it for a few months.
Yeah. I would. Yeah.
I mean, in her situation, I mean, she's already like, she can't do anything, right? So like, it's at that point, release the soul, you know? I've even tried talking to her soul when I'm there. I'm like, is there a reason, like, you know, because she hates it there. Every time we go there, she cries. But we tried having her. We had her for like 5 weeks, and she was even better then, and it was too much. She needs machines. She needs all this stuff to like just be alive. Otherwise, she'd unfortunately just starve to death.
Oh.
But that's thanks to, you know what? That's another one that, you know, I know so many, I've said it before, I know so many people that had strokes or died. And I know tons of people that know of heart attacks. But actually, I know of someone, it's sad.
Yeah. It's true, though, and it all contributes, doesn't it? I mean, the evidence is overwhelming. Not to go off on a topic about that because we're doing Divine Feminine, aren't we? But it is.
Well, yeah.
It is.
Another reason to have that nurturing energy, because a lot of these people are waking up, and there's one of the narratives in like the community. It's like, oh, I don't even want to say the words because I hate saying bad words, but they're like not sympathetic to these people's plights. And it's like, they're human beings in pain. And a human being in pain is a human being in pain. And it's as simple as that. Yeah, they were sheeple and they didn't wake up, but they're starting to. I've seen, like, just with my own dad, because he went through his own health journey, I think largely because it was advanced because of these situations. And he's actually finally starting to go like, F these guys. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, you know, because it just gets so bad that you have to. That's the thing. Unfortunately, people needed to get, and it did for me too, like where it got really bad before I finally started getting my shit together. But it was something else that got me long before COVID. So I kind of was like, you know, it's kind of a good thing, you know, that I went through it all before, because who knows if I hadn't woken up, but COVID came along, you know what I mean? Like, what would I have done? Like, what if it was in my younger days and I was 20 when this happened, you know? Because I remember when I went to ECE school, this is what part woke me up. They made me they checked my blood and saw that my B, you know, the Hep B and there was a few of them. They weren't there anymore. And I was going to go work at daycares, which I did, but they made me get a bunch of vaccines again. And sure as shit, my health declined rapidly at that age. Like, that's when I got really, really, really bad and had the full awakening because of my health deteriorating. And you know, it's not like I was eating the best and I was drinking a lot. So I was doing it to myself too. But there was a stark moment when that, you know.
Do you know what? That happened to me when I was a nurse and I had to get Hep B. And I only had one. And that's when I started having a lot of issues with like chronic fatigue, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and bringing it back just to like the trauma-based system, the medical industry also causes all sorts of trauma, as you were saying. And one of those things is sexual trauma. I mean, many of the procedures that happen to you when you go to the doctor or the clinic or the hospital would be considered sexual abuse or torture if they happen somewhere else. And that seems to be a thing that a lot of people miss. So when we're talking about the deep sexual trauma that we all have,
they go like
there's
inside
another
you
source of it.
I don't think they should be inside you that much. Why are you in there? Like, get out. I thought that the whole time.
Exactly.
Luckily, I usually had girls, but still. And then but like, why are you in there? It just felt like intrusive. It felt like that wasn't a good idea. I'm actually I don't even think people should do it during it. That seems super weird. But like,
yeah,
I don't know. It just seems like they're very, very invasive and on it with everything in the medical industry. So I agree completely.
Agreed.
It is. It's the trauma, isn't it? And people PTSD from that kind of stuff. But again, going back to like the birth thing and the mother, like even the way that they deliver babies, it's horrible. You know, you're there. You're like when I had my daughter, she was facing the wrong way. Basically, she was facing sideways, and she got stuck, and she was malpositioned, all that kind of stuff. But she'd been in there ages, and I had meconium, which is basically when they poo in you, and then it comes out in the water.
Andrew did that to me.
It's like it's a sign of distress, really. And so obviously, if they breathe it in, it can cause all sorts of breathing problems. So they have to suction them. So I was in this room, and I mean, I'd been in labour for hours and hours and hours, pushing. It absolutely reeked. I got no modesty. There was all these doctors around me. There was about 8 or 9 of them. I got my legs up here, and I got a midwife in each. It was horrendous. But that's the thing. You're going through this which should be a really lovely, you know, experience. And it's just cold and clinical. And they're talking about you like you're not there, and you lay down and you feel like a chicken being put. Do you know what I mean? It's horrible. So dehumanizing. I mean, I'm not saying I'm not grateful. I mean, I'd have been grateful if they'd have done what they were meant to
Oh,
do.
and it used to be worse. I think I told you this, but I saw my grandma's paperwork for when she had one of my parents, or oh God, one of my parents, lol, one of my uncle or my mom, and God, and it said we'll. Yeah, I know. Oh no, rumors. No, she could be strapped down. They will gas her, and they even put in you cannot resist. It was, and she had to sign it. So it's like I cannot resist, but I have to sign it. So obviously I can resist. But you want to be able to sue me if I resist? Like what? I'm signing a thing to say I won't resist you strapping me down and giving me drugs I don't want. And there was no negotiation. It wrote no negotiation. If you were delivering at this hospital, like that was it. It was like a contract. It was so messed up. I put it on my Instagram. If anyone ever wants to see it, scroll back to like the very beginning of my postings, because I did it, like it was one of the first things I did. It might have been why I made my Instagram. And yeah, because I was just so like, what the absolute F.
What? She had to sign so they could strap her down, just give her drugs.
Yeah, and I didn't get to talk it out with her, so I don't know like the reality of how it played out. I know she talks about people took advantage of her all the time, so I'm not surprised. But because I found it in her stuff after she passed. I got it in some of her stuff. It was just in with papers and stuff, or pictures, because I got a bunch of pictures. And yeah, I was just like, holy mother F, like that's nuts. And it's around the same time because she had my uncle and my mom back to back, like they're back to back kids. So it's around, my mom's 64. So he's maybe like 65, 66 tops. I think he's 65. But so the like 1965, I mean, and that's not that long ago to be like, yeah, like this is what we mean with the feminine and like being okay. Like, who do we know what we're supposed to be? What is the ideal female? I don't fucking know, because I'm still too busy to stop being traumatized. You know, like I've come a very, very long way. I'm a completely different first person, but I have to go pretty much now. But so I'll end it with this. But I'm a completely different person, but it's like I'm still traumatized, but it's just like I came from a less traumatizing family. Like I still have like PTSD. I still have all these things that came from that situation, and not just my parents. School was awful. So many things were awful. Like people were awful like in the past, and the star seeds are the ones. And this is why, like when I got that thing, which I told the third eye bridge, because it's people like us that see that it should be different, that see that it must be different, and then even start to see the ways it can be different. And this is why we're in the healing right now, because right now the things that come to me are all just things like to heal, and part of it's to like produce a life and stuff, but I can't, like, all I'm really doing is telling people things need to change and helping them to heal, because you know, I talked to Nick if you want a new government, because like he's really on that, because that's the kind of things we need, like is those solutions. But healing trauma is still vital. Sometimes I feel like I want to do more. I just literally can't even think because of what to do more, because we're that far into just, we need to heal the past way more to be able to birth the good split, the higher potential for our future. Like we need to, because the concepts of how good it can be need to literally be invented, and probably by people like us.
Agreed.
Absolutely agreed. Yes. Thank you so much for joining us, Dyanna. This was a lovely discussion. I'm sure we'll have you back many times.
Yes.
Yes. And so, and thank you. And yeah, Sam, is there anything you want to say to
finish it off? No, thank you ever so much for coming on. Pleasure as always. Kirsten and I absolutely love you. And we'll catch you on the flip side.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. This was great as always. And it's weird doing it not live. It's actually, I don't know, it's like weird.
Well, we're getting there. We're going to be doing live soon.
But thank you very much. I love talking to you guys no matter what, camera or no camera. See, that's why I was like, the audience can see I'm like natural. I'm the same, camera on or off.
All right.
Okay. Dyanna, you take care.
You guys too.